And before I begin this panel, I do want to send a personal message to all of you. Thank you for serving. You don't have to in this country, so we appreciate you guys stepping up and serving. I was an enlisted man in the Marine Corps from 2006 to 2012, Iraq and Afghanistan, and I relied on my officers, and my officers relied on me. It is a working conjunction, and those enlisted men are looking for parent-type figures. When they leave home at 18 years old and go into the military, whether it's Marine Corps or so on and so forth, they're looking to you for guidance. So thank you. Make sure you lead them, and they can actually help expand your career by relying on your enlisted men. So thank you guys very, very much. That being said, I am with 4 absolute legends here. You may never get another opportunity to be sitting in front of World War II veterans. And if everyone's seen outside there, I got an M1 Grand Rifle that's signed by over 500 World War II veterans. I went from coast to coast to meet these men and women and learn how to live a successful life after the military and not just plateau at your military service. The first gentleman I'm going to speak with is Arthur. Can you hear me, Arthur?
Yes, I can.
You were on an attack transport ship in the Pacific.
That's correct.
I bet you were probably a target for kamikazes.
Certainly we were hit twice.
Can you tell me about that?
Well, the first one was in Lingayan Gulf in the Philippines, and the second one was in New Caledonia. And that one, you're supposed to go zigzag formation when you go into a war zone. We come into this war zone, we discharge the troops, and we come in and we're going zigzag to get in a position. The ship in front of us, instead of zigzagging when we did, it zigzagged when they wanted. They ended up opening up a third line, which was unconstitutional. Well, here we have this ship now going straight, trying to get in formation. And out comes a kamikaze plane and heading for that ship. I was on the bridge with my executive officer. We both have binoculars and we see what's happening. He starts shouting, "Make smoke, make smoke, make smoke." They cover us with smoke within seconds. We were lucky we did not have any crashes. We got into the formation and the ship was hit by a kamikaze plane. We were sent, our officer, our captain got a report, and then he sent us that all the men on our ship were to go up on deck and stand in white Navy uniforms. And we stood there, and all of a sudden we called to attention, and abusers began blowing taps. Burial at sea commences. They take the dead, they put them in a plastic canvas bag, they seal it, and they wheel it over with an American flag to the side of the ship, and they gently drop the coffin into the ocean. Their family gets nothing but a telegram that the next of kin was killed and it was buried in the Pacific Ocean. And we were lucky. That was the only damage we had, and we had to live with it.
That's a phenomenal story. I don't think I've ever heard exactly about burial at sea, and I've always wondered that. So thank you so much for sharing that. I bet that image is stuck in your life forever. Thank you. So, Mr. Graves, you were a flamethrower operator with the 5th Marine Division on Iwo Jima. You are the last Zippo man probably left. This was a weapon that really, that's banned today, but if it wasn't for this weapon, we would probably lost more Marines on Iwo Jima. Yeah. It was an absolute necessary weapon to get out an entrenched enemy. Can you give us one thing you like to share about being a flamethrower operator on Iwo Jima?
One day I was heading for the PX, or the slop chute, if you Marines know what that is. And someone said, "Graves, hold up." And I turned around, it was my skipper. "Congratulations, you're the company flamethrower." I said, "Skipper, I'm short. I can't carry that. You'll be all right, and you'll be left a target." I don't know what he meant by that at that time. That's how I became a flamethrower operator. And nobody would get near me. It was my job also to train the rest of the fellows in my company. They wouldn't do it. And the old man said, "I can't make them do it." I mean, that's a deadly thing. So the lifespan of a flamethrower was 4 minutes. I came off in that battalion, the only one. I'm the only one that walked off of that thing. God was with me. And I can't say why he wasn't with others, but someone helped me. But I loved it. It was a good machine. 5 gallons of fuel, 2.5 on one tank, 2.5 on the other. The pressure tank in the middle. You had a gun with a hose, turn it on, spark it like the firecracker. Just spark it, shoot it. Now you've got to give about 6 bursts. Swoosh. Swoosh. If you hold that trigger back, within a few seconds you're empty. So you spare it, just shoot it, just like that. That's it. That's a flamethrower.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to come back to you. We got another 30 minutes here. Caster Salemi, how you doing?
Okay.
You and I know each other from Massachusetts.
Yes, we do.
And we often equivalate the Pacific War with the Marine Corps. Marine Corps did a great job, the flag raising on Iwo Jima, but really we do kind of forget that the Army served in the Pacific as well.
Yes.
You were in the field artillery.
Yes.
On the Philippines.
In the Philippines.
What was your job in the artillery? Did you shoot the howitzers? Were you someone who looked out the viewing site?
No, my job was, well, let me go back a little bit. My job was to provide communications between the firing batteries and headquarters. But unfortunately, radios did not work in the jungle. And when we made the initial landing in the Philippines, my truck full of all communication commission just sank after I came off the ramp. So I had to wait 3 days on a beach. Then we went to Manila, firing along the way, but not much feedback there. And until we started to chase the Japanese, who headed north. They wanted to head beyond the Baliti Pass. Baliti Pass was a constriction of mountains on either side, and the Japanese had their cannons, their 105s, whatever they were, on top. And every time we tried to approach to get through the pass, they fired down on us. That battle in Baliti Pass took almost 3 months. From I understand, we had 20,000 in casualties, and the most casualties we lost was obviously from firing batteries, and we lost about 10% of our men at that battle. And we then, toward the end of this, we got the notification that the Allies had dropped a bomb on Japan, and we stopped firing. And then they told us that the peace treaty was signed, and we were assigned then to bury the dead Japanese that were all around us. And we did that, and then I was assigned to, all of us were assigned to gather the Japanese and bring them back down to Manila, and we did that. One experience I had, the Japanese wouldn't let a female ride on the cattle cars. So my job was to take the Japanese nurse down to Manila where she could be repatriated to Japan. In the meantime, the jungle rot that I had gotten in New Guinea became so bad that I couldn't walk. So they put me on a hospital ship, and I was shipped back to San Francisco, and then on a hospital train back to West Virginia, and then home.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that story. When are you going to come up to Boston and hang out at the ITAM with me?
Anytime, I'm ready.
Great. And how old are you now?
I'm 103.
103. Mr. Wright,
Yes.
you are there's a lot of, I always say this guy is the last this. I mean, let's face it, we're talking about World War II, but you are the last known Marine Raider.
That's correct.
And the Marine Raiders are the Marine Corps Special Operations today and back then. You were wounded twice on Guam and Iwo Jima.
Correct.
And I read, which a lot of guys are wounded by shrapnel, you were wounded by a Japanese bayonet.
The first one, yes.
Could you tell us about what led up to that? Was it hand-to-hand fighting, and did this happen on Guam?
Yes. The Japanese made the largest bullseye attack on us on Guam, on the largest one in the whole Pacific War came at that particular time, as well as the tank battles. Our tank battles with the Japanese was the largest tank battle of the Pacific War, right there in front of us. And when their Japanese tanks came down from the top of the hill to make their attack, they had the Japanese force walking behind it. And when they got down toward where we were bedded down in our foxholes, then they ran out from behind the tank and then started fighting us hand to hand. And we fought them for a little while, and finally I got I thought I had the best of one of the Japs, and evidently he was still kicking when he forced me off, and I tripped backwards and I fell down inside my foxhole. And when I did, the guy next to me in another foxhole, he shot the Jap on it and wounded him, I think. And then he fell down on top of me. And as he fell down on top of me, I had my K-bar gung-ho knife on it that I had been using to help dig my foxhole. And when I fell down, my hand hit that knife that was still sticking up in the foxhole. And so I grabbed it, and the Jap fell down on top of me, and as he fell down on top of me, I pulled the knife out and from the hole where it was and sliced his throat open. And I
killed him right there in front of me. And he bled all over me. Until the next morning they were counting the noses of all the wounded. And I was one of them. And I was still walking good. But as I had fallen down, he had jabbed at the same time and thrusted his bayonet into my stomach. And it went in on a slant, so it did not penetrate any particular
Organ.
item that was in my stomach on it. So that kind of saved me in a way. But that was my first attack from a bonsai attack from them, from the Japanese. And and it was also my first Purple Heart that I received from that. I had received. I was going on to Iwo Jima on it. After that, we trained. Our company trained for about 8 months after that particular one attack, and we were going to be going on to Iwo Jima the following operations.
I think you just reminded everybody here that they don't know what a bad day is with that story. I can tell you that. Hold that thought on Iwo Jima. I got 22 minutes. I'm going to try to make another round with all you guys. But that's the realities of real war up close and personal. It's not sugar-coated in a Hollywood movie. You have a survivor here, hand-to-hand combat. Very important for us to know what these guys went through and sacrificed for us to have the country and have the life we have today. And we have to remember that and cherish it. Be good to each other, be good to our community. Arthur, how did you feel when you found out the war was over?
Well, I was so happy, but we got really busy then, transporting troops from out in the Pacific to the shore on the West Coast, and that lasted a number of months, and then I was discharged, and I was fortunate enough to go to college paid by the government.
Good, great. Mr. Graves, Iwo Jima was a part of your life forever after that. I see pictures of the temporary grave sites on Iwo. Have you ever been back to Iwo Jima, and did that bring any closure in your life?
8 years after the battle, there were 3 of us that went back. It was all paid for. And we got back there and we found something that we didn't like. When we fought on that island, of course it was all volcanic ash. There's no sand on Iwo Jima. It's volcanic ash. Nothing. But now you looked and it was all green bushes, shrubbery. They just sprayed and got it to grow up again. And we didn't like that too much. The only thing that was bare was the beach itself. But I looked at Mount Suribachi because, you know, from where we lay on the beach to the base of Mount Suribachi was 575 feet. It took us 3 days to get there. And when we fought up to the top, we looked and they're raising the first flag. We didn't know anything about a flag. That was not in the picture. But our battalion commander, Chandler Johnson, he said to his executive officer, he said, "Harold, take this flag. The skipper aboard ship gave it to me and wanted to know if I could put it up for him." He said, "See what you can do." He says, "All right, sir." When they got up there, they found drain pipe. That mast you see is drain pipe, and it couples together. Now, the reason it was pipe up there is that the Japanese were in caves down below, and they caught all the rainwater they could because they could not make their water. We made our water down at the beach. So that's the story about the flag and etc.
I got to ask you, because I talked to a lot of veterans. I've spearheaded about 26 trips back to Europe with World War II veterans. Over 60 different World War II veterans I've brought back to Europe because I live on the East Coast. I live in Boston. 6.5 hour flight to Paris, bring these guys back to a first world country. What made you go back to Iwo 8 years after the war, and what kind of arrangements did you have to make with the Japanese government? Or I guess technically we probably still own the island then, right?
You have to remember, we lost 7,000 kids on that island. We were buddies. We were strong, just like the Raiders were. Same thing. We had those Raiders. They joined the 5th Division.
Mm-hmm.
That was President Roosevelt's prize project, the 5th Division. We were designed to take something he wanted. It was interesting because our Admiral, Nimitz, he was at a calling in MacArthur, and the rest of the staff at Washington, and Roosevelt came in on his wheelchair with his brace on his leg and his crutch and his butler, and he wheeled up to a map about the size of that screen, and he reached up with a stick and he touched a spot below Tokyo. And he says, "Gentlemen, do you know where I'm pointing?" Nobody knew. Our admiral jumped up. He said, "Mr. President, if I'm not making a mistake, that's a little spot called Iwo Jima." And Roosevelt said, "Exactly, I want that island. It's blowing our B-52s out of the air when they come back from bombing. They have to have a safe place to land, and that's what we want." And that's how Iwo Jima got in the picture. And it had a bunch of crack boys. A lot of fellows had combat in that. It was a good outfit. We lost 7,000 kids on that island, 20,000 wounded.
So when you went back 8 years later, they moved a lot of the bodies to the Philippines, to the American cemetery there, and a lot of guys got repatriated back home.
3 of them, 3 divisions.
Right.
You know, something happened. Laura Lepper was the lady. She founded Daughters of World War II, big outfit back in Texas. And we're coming closer to Iwo, and I'm on the inside. She's sitting by the window, but she has her laptop on. So she said, "Don," she said, "change seats with me." She'd been there before. And I got up. I moved over by the window, and I'm looking out the window, and then all of a sudden, I see Mount Suribachi come in view. When I saw that mountain, and I saw that island, I could hear everything happening. I could hear the rounds go up. I could hear the screaming.
Amazing.
And the yelling. I heard everything. And she watched me, and she took pictures, and I have a copy of one. I don't like what I see.
Sure. Thank you for sharing that experience with especially everybody here. Castor, how's it going over there?
Okay.
What did you do after the war for a career?
Korea? No, I was not in Korea.
We didn't have a job.
What did you do for a career, a job?
Oh, Korea. I originally, right after I was discharged, I got a job with the New York City subway system as a power maintainer. But they lived by unusual rules. You had to change shift every week. And that made a point that I couldn't take any education because you go to work on Monday one week, and the next week you go on Friday, and the next week back to 8 o'clock on Monday. It was totally impossible to live that way. Anyway, then I got a job with Sylvania Corporation in their research laboratory, and I was kind of a model maker. And whatever they came up with as an idea, it was my job to put it to what it should be like. And they allowed me to, since we had no union there, they allowed me to operate any equipment that I saw fit in the laboratory. So it was very interesting, and I couldn't wait to go to work in the morning. It was great.
Did you attend any reunions after the war, anything like that, and stay active?
Yes, I did. I not only attended them, but I arranged them. And I even got my company commander or rather captain, to come down from New York, upstate New York, all the way down to our meetings. And just kept on to it for a short while, but we were all young. And then they said we all started to marry off, and it kind of broke apart at that point.
So there was an importance to bring guys together years later.
Absolutely. One of the first things I realized is that it was terrible to live without the companionship that we had the past 2 years, 3 years. And we all couldn't wait to get together and talk about what was happening in the world.
That's great. That's nice to know. Mr. Wright, how's it going?
Fine.
You look very sharp in your dress blues, by the way.
Thank you. That's one of the reasons I joined the Marine Corps.
Yes, me too. I fell for that as well. Then I realized I had a different rifle than everybody else, and different resources in the Marine Corps compared to other branches of service, even to this day. You could have made your injuries work for you on Guam and said, I don't want to go back to the front lines. Maybe I'm wrong. I think we all know people can milk the system, I don't even want to say milk the system. You were stabbed on Guam. But you went back, you healed up. How long did it take you to heal from your injuries on Guam? And why did you want to go back to your unit?
Well, the unit was my home. The boys, they were my kids. And I was the squad leader, and so I had to take care of them. They're the ones that I had to protect. So, but it took us 8 months. I don't want to say just 8 months, but we took about 8 months to do all the training that we needed to do on Guam, because it was a different type of fighting that we were going to be doing on Iwo Jima, mostly hand-to-hand at first on it. And we had to sharpen up our training status on that. And I'm sure happy that I had been in the Raiders, because the Raiders taught us things that we would have never dreamed of doing in regular combat on it. And it's true today. And the new Raiders that are being trained are trained a little bit different than the regular training on hand-to-hand fighting. We were trained to kill and not wound. So everything was kill. And we were trained very good, very good. And it saved my life. The training saved my life on it a lot of times. There's one thing a lot of kids now are asked, how can we get into the Raiders on it? Well, you can't get into the old Raiders. You can get into the new Raiders, as far as that goes. But you have to remember you're going to train differently on it. You listen to what your instructors say, and they've been there, they've done that. And that's a good thing that the Marine Corps has tried to teach. So, but I'm maybe wandering off a lot.
Nope, I don't think so. I asked you why, you basically just described why so badly you wanted to get back to your unit, the love you had for it. You were a squad leader. And when you got to Iwo Jima with the Raiders, did you see that it was vastly different than Guam as far as terrain and enemy maneuvers and things like that?
Yes, on the training is from training on Iwo and Guam. Guam was a lot of open fields, and Iwo Jima was caves and things like that. And we had to have 50-foot ropes tied around rolled up and tied around our rear end also, because, and we had never carried ropes before on it. But we had a lot of climbing to do, and we had a lot of digging. So the training was much different from any training that we had on it. And the big wheels knew that. They had been trained as well, and so in training, a lot of the training is for defensive on it, and the Raiders, they trained to attack, and we carried all of us carried long knives and regular knives from the Marine Corps on it, and for night fighting, we had all kinds of knives and stuff like that we had to train for on it. So it's entirely was an entirely different animal, if you will, to fight these Japs that were on Iwo Jima as their defensive. They were the pick of the crop. And of course, the Raiders, those that was in the 4th Division, and those that were in the 5th Division on it. And then the 3rd Division came in a little bit later. And I was in the 21st Marines. The 21st Marines duty was to lead the 4th Division and part of the 3rd Division and the 21st Marines across airfield number 2 and get it through and then destroy the caves, the pillboxes and stuff. One of my members of our organization and of the 21st Marines was Woody Herman. He was the last Medal of Honor winner on Iwo Jima, and he said he destroyed 7 pillboxes himself, which is a bunch of horse shit. So, but anyway, he was awarded the Medal of Honor, and the things that he said he did on it were not completely true on it, because my BAR man was the one that helped save his butt. And he protected him.
We're going to do a Q&A, Sergeant, but I want to hear more about that as well. Because I believe there was a B.A. Armin and two other guys buried at the Punch Bowl in Hawaii that, helped him operate that flamethrower. Who's got some questions for our Pacific veterans?
One right here.
Gentlemen, that was really interesting. Thank you, Andrew. I appreciate it. This is for Don Graves. So, Don, could you tell the audience what it was like? You're the last flamethrower. You're walking off the island through the cemetery of your division and that sign that was on the gate. Could you tell us a little bit about that, please?
That's true. 4 minutes. That was the lifespan of a flamethrower operator. It was just the hand of God, and I don't know why. I wasn't any better than anybody else. But I praise him for it. But you said something here, and I almost laughed out of the seat. You asked this Marine here, what made you go back there? After all, you did this. Why did you do that? I'm going to tell you why he went there. He was ordered to do it, and a Marine will obey the order, right?
That's correct. And when they say poop, boy, you start stooping over.
Thank you very much. Gentlemen, I'd like your opinion on the dropping of the atomic bombs.
What did you think about the dropping of the atomic bomb?
Well, let me say this. We're traveling at sea, and the radio man gets this report, that report, and before you know, in 5 minutes, the whole ship knows everything, sometimes before the captain does. I'm thankful for the president that the new president came and he discovered these bombs. He authorized the dropping of one atomic bomb. Through the ship we heard, who knew what an atomic bomb was? A bomb. They didn't say atomic. 3 days later, they repeated. This time, it's an atomic bomb. I thank that president. I am alive. I'll be 100 years old December 11th because my new president used those bombs.
Any other questions? Looking for a hand. Right there. Go back. He's coming around. All right, I'll get you.
Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you for being here today. My name is Braden Sharp from the Naval Academy. Gentlemen, many of you saw war at its most brutal, with several thousands of deaths around you. What kept your motivation and your brotherhood strong when the cost around you was so high?
Can you repeat?
Yeah, he said, with all the casualties you guys took collectively, war all around you, what kept you motivated in the Philippines, especially dealing with jungle rot and everything else?
I didn't mind the fact that it was hot, but the incidence of jungle rot was really terrible. And even when we made the landing in the Philippines, many of the men in our outfit came with braces under their arms to keep their arms ventilated under their armpits. And but we were really motivated against Japanese. And when we first heard that we had dropped the bombs, none of us knew what an atomic bomb was. But we stopped firing, and we waited until the peace treaty was signed. And then we all raided the medical corps for their alcohol and put it in a trash barrel and with all the fruit we could find, and had one great big party.
Nice, nice.
One more question over here.
Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. I'm Colby Viator from the University of Rochester. And Mr. Wright, from what I understand, the boat crews from the original Marine Raiders were all volunteer. I would really love to hear about why you made that choice to volunteer for the Raiders and how that played out for you in the war.
He said, from what he understands, the Raiders were all volunteer group.
That's correct.
What made you volunteer for the Raiders?
Well, it was in 1943, I think it was, on it. They said they were forming Raiders, and I felt that I joined the Marine Corps to fight, and the Raiders were going to be the first to go in there and fight. And I wanted to be part of that. I was only 16 years old when I went into the Marine Corps and lied about my age, and I still had a lot of poop left in me. So I wanted to be there and be on the front lines with them, and that's where they put me. But the Raiders were first, and their objective was to kill. And as I said, I was 16, and I wanted to do that for them. And they put me where I could.
Great. You must be one of the most hardcore people I've ever met, Mr. Wright, I'll tell you. Thank you for this conversation. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the next panel.